All over the country, people are ripping out their beautiful box hedges and their wonderful box topiary because of box blight. But in this film, I'm going to show you different strategies and methods that you can use, so once more, you have beautiful box. This is a perfect example of box blight. You see, it hasn't been touched. It starts off when you get tiny brown or black spots on the leaves, and then they coalesce to form sort of buff or yellow coloured lesions. And then the leaves die and they drop off and you get this defoliation. It's actually caused by a fungus, and the fungus is Cylindrocladium buxicolia, and the other name it's called now is Colonectra pseudonaviculata. But we know it as box blight, and it's something we've grown to hate. When you cut your box hedge, it's really important that you do it when it's dry and it's not going to rain in the next couple of days. This is because if it's wet, then when you cut it, you disturb any resting spores and they will just ping everywhere and infect the plant. I use hedge cutters. I use cordless ones because they're nice and light. I have this little one for intricate parts. I have a bigger cordless one for bigger bits. I also use secateurs, so when I've done it with the hedge cutters, if I've got intricate bits, I can just go and clip off any little snags or edges with my secateurs. When I cut it, I take with me a bucket of water, and in that bucket I'll have 5 or 10% solution of disinfectant, household disinfectant in water, and I'll dip the hedge cutters in it every 10 minutes or so, and then with a wet rag, not on my trousers because it's got the bleach in, I will wipe it clean and dry. The kit that you use, it must be sharp. So I know professional hedge cutters who'd get their hedge cutters sharpened 3 times a year. For someone who's only going to cut their box hedge maybe once in June and then maybe a light trim over in September, then maybe just get it done at the beginning of the season. But if you don't have really sharp blades, it's pretty obvious you will snag, you'll tear and you'll rip instead of a nice clean cut, and that's what spreads infection. It takes one box leaf 3 years to produce enough energy to produce a leaf. And so that means every time you cut it once or even twice a year, you are stressing the plant. So the important thing to do is to make sure that you get light inside the plant and then you get foliage inside the plant. And so what you do is you plunge prune. Go in with your secateurs and you cut out quite brutally, quite big pieces. And so you're letting a lot of light and air to get into this hedge. And you do it in such a way that it doesn't actually affect the look of the hedge. It's amazing how dense they are. And if I dug out one of these plants, you'll be amazed. There will just be leaves on the very topmost of the hedge and there'll be nothing inside at all. This way, we're opening it up and so we're getting foliage inside the hedge. Another great thing that you can do to reduce your box blight is to apply a mulch. Now, Bennett Saunders, who grows a lot of box in America, has found that if you have a good light mulch on the soil, it reduces the blight by 95%. Now, you can't use any old mulch. They don't want something that compacts down because that's going to cause a splashback. So you want to use one, preferably one of these two, they're ideal. This first one is Strolch, and it's basically a mineralised straw. So it's a nice lightish colour, very easy, very light to apply, and it does actually make the plants look really good, I think, having this around their base. So this is one, and you just apply it all over the surface. The second one is what they call a carpet. Very flash name, isn't it? But this is a lovely, light, mid-brown product. Again, very nice to handle, and it's been developed by top boxers, and they're well known for their box feed, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So either of these, if you apply them once a year and you put them all down the base, you will find you could well reduce your box blight by 95%. So let's have a go and give it a try. Good thick layer coming on there. And also, any spores that are in the soil will of course be under the soil, under the mulch, and so they're not going to splash back and hit the plant. The treatment that I've been using on my box hedging at home is this Signum. Now, this is a fungicide. It's extremely effective. You can apply it twice a year in the growing season. I mix up the powder at the prescribed rate, and I usually apply it with this small knapsack. And I keep this knapsack purely for my box. This spray, this Signum, you can only use if you're a professional. I.e. by that I mean you have your professional exam, the PA1 and the PA6, which is a course you take that's spread over about 1.5 days, and it's really straightforward and it's really informative, and it just shows you how to apply sprays. You do a quick multiple choice exam and then you do a practical exam. I went to a local agricultural horticultural college up the road from me, and it will cost you a couple of £100. If you don't want to go down that route and you'd rather do something else, a lot of box growers who have massive amount of box, they swear by this. Now this is Topo Box's Health Mix, and this actually works by feeding the plant, and that way, see, it comes in lovely little sachets, and you just dissolve 1 sachet per litre in the sprayer, mix it all up and then spray it on. You spray it on in the growing season, so you will start when you see the box leaping into life, maybe in sort of end of April, beginning of May, and you can spray it every month. If you see any box blight, then you might want to go to fortnightly. And when you apply a spray, you wouldn't do it on a day such as this. The weather is appalling, it would blow everywhere, and you equally wouldn't apply it on a very hot, still day. And with any spray that's going on the leaves and being taken up by the plant, you want to make sure that it's not really, really hot. One crucial thing about growing really healthy box is if you have to irrigate it, please don't irrigate it from overhead with these irrigation systems that sway back and forwards, because then you're going to make all the leaves wet and any spores will be encouraged to spread. Either use a watering can or else I use a seep hose, but make sure you use one with pressurized drip emitters in it. That's one that will actually give you the same amount of water coming out the top end as the bottom end. The exciting news is that Didier Herman from his nursery Her Plants in Belgium has, since 2007, been growing these box extensively, and he's been breeding them to find clones of box that are blight resistant. He got the little plants that resulted, and then he inoculated them with box blight, and he saw which ones are resistant. He's now got these 4 clones which he's going to actually start selling. I'm always asked what substitutes people can use instead of box, and the one that a lot of people suggest is Ilex crenata. This is Japanese holly. I think this is a really difficult plant to grow. I managed to keep it going for 3 years, but a lot of other people can only keep it alive for 2. The only place I've succeeded with it is in northern Japan, in Hokkaido. We grew extensive hedges of Ilex crenata there, and it was fantastic. But it's much wetter there, it's much hotter, and they have very cold winters. So what is good? Well, I think the best substitute on a wetter soil is to plant yew. That's Taxus baccata. And people think that's strange because it grows into a massive tree. But actually you can clip it into a low hedge just a foot high once a year, and it's superb. So that's a really good one. And if it's wet, again, yew, like box, doesn't like a high water table. So you plant them both on a slight mound, and that really helps the drainage. Another plant that people suggest is something like Euonymus japonica microphyllus. Much looser growth, not so nice as box, but it's okay. And then there's Teucrium cross lucidus. Again, it's looser, it's got flowers, but it's not a tight, neat architectural hedge, which is what box and yew are so brilliant for.